Hi, everyone. This is your host, Larnie Jane, and welcome to the first ever podcast for the Melody Project.
Woo! Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba.
Every episode, a guest and myself will discuss everything music, whether it be a new release or something crazy and exciting in the music industry. And since this is the first episode, let me properly introduce myself. Hi again, I'm Larnie Jane. I'm currently a postgrad digital marketing student. I'm a piano instructor, blogger here on Simply LJ, and now podcaster. And when I'm not creating content, you can find me playing the piano or fangirling over my favorite musical group, which I will reveal later on in this podcast. My guest today sings alto in Canada's longest running collegiate a cappella group and is someone very dear to me. Would you please introduce yourself?
Hi there, fans of Simply LJ. My name is Andrea Sargento. I'm a fourth year in honors criminology at York University, and I am going to be entering my third year singing alto with York's collegiate a cappella group, We Be A Cappella. A little bit about me. I've been singing literally since I popped out of the womb, and I've been in love with music my whole life. And ever since I was young, I love to sing karaoke with my family, and I'm also a worship leader at the church we attend. And you probably won't ever see me without a pair of earphones stuffed into my ears, so it's nice to meet you guys.
So let's address the elephant in the room right now. You may have noticed that Andrea and I sound very similar. No, we are not the same person. We just sound very similar because we are sisters. So yeah, there you go. Anyways, and let's start talking about why we're here.
That is
right?
probably what we should get
Probably
to.
we probably should get to that. Yes. So today's topic, of course, is pop music over the years, but more specifically, the music that we have grown up listening to. So pop music is such a broad topic, it includes groups, like it includes boy bands, it includes even the crooners back in the day. It's just so broad. So we're going to talk about the types of music that we grew up listening to. So Ange, let's think. Earliest songs. What are the earliest pop or just songs that you remember listening to?
I mean, I feel like the earliest songs that we really listened to couldn't really be classified as pop, especially considering, well, I guess it could be since our parents listened to a lot of older rock.
That's true.
Dad has a bunch of Aerosmith CDs. He has upstairs a lot of Journey. So I would say, I feel like the first major musical experience we ever got exposed to was through things our dad and our mom playing either on the radio or yeah, just things like that. So it was a lot of older rock, but I guess it could still consider be pop. I mean, pop is just popular
music. Yeah, for sure. I was thinking the earliest thing I could remember is the Beatles. Do you remember how Dad would just turn he would use the Beatles to wake us up in the morning? It'd be literally Saturday at 7 or 8 in the morning, even though it's a weekend. He would blast that all the time. Some Beatles song. He had the Beatles #1 greatest hits CD, and every morning he would just blast that to wake us up. So anyways, yeah, that's what we grew up listening to. Beatles, a lot of Elvis Presley, especially during Christmas time. A lot of Elvis, and also the Carpenters. Right? What was that song that we liked listening to?
I like listening to Yesterday Once More a lot.
Yesterday. Do you want to sing a little bit since you are part of that a cappella group? Do you want to show?
I love how the lyrics just left my head.
Oh, okay. Well, for next time, guys, she will sing for us next time. So yes, a lot of old songs, but the oldies but goodies, right? Okay, so let's talk specifically about the music though. What really stuck with you? Let's start with the Beatles. What about their sound?
I don't know. They had a really unique sound. I think that's what it was. I guess during their time, the music that they came out with was so unique and so different from just everything else that was being released. Although I don't know if I'm the greatest expert to say that, especially since I'm not super familiar with the music of that age. But I think they also carried just a different charisma and a different stage presence, and that really really affected their fans. And a lot of their fans were really young people too. They
Definitely.
would go absolutely rabid over seeing them. It was insanity, but also so cool.
Definitely. Yeah, they had the crazy fangirls back then. Like, even if you go on YouTube and just search up their performance of like Twist and Shout, I'll play like a quick bit of it. Well, shake it up, baby. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout. Obviously, we grew up and we developed our own taste. Not to say that we don't enjoy listening to the Beatles. To this day, we actually still do. And Elvis, of course. But I remember when I was in kindergarten, when I was like 5 or 6 years old, I really loved listening to Britney Spears and Spice Girls. I don't know. I guess it was just how like the bubblegum pop sound really spoke to me as a child. I guess it was so bubbly and it was so fun to listen to. The Spice Girls had a movie as well. See, marketing comes to play, right? Like with nice packaging for these girl groups, it's all about the glitter and the movies and stuff that makes you want to be like them. So I really enjoyed their music because of how bouncy and fun it was. How about you, Ange? Growing up, what was the type of stuff you liked?
I mean, it's weird. I like, as much as I love music now and I love listening to new kinds of music, I feel like growing up, I didn't really figure out what I wanted to listen to, and I would just listen to whatever my older brother, my older sister listened to, because that's what I did as the youngest child. So I found that every time my brother would listen to like Neo or just like other R&B and hip hop artists, I would listen to that and be like, oh, that's super cool. And then my sister would be listening to like Britney Spears and other like really strong, empowering girl female artists, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool too. And then I guess I would say around like 12, 13 is when I started listening to my own music, which is simultaneously happens to be when I got my first iPod as well. And so I started listening to a lot of Bruno Mars, and just Bruno Mars is honestly still an artist that I still look up to today. He's just he's an amazing performer, super writer, talented composer, and he's just like everything I look up to. He is such a super cool, amazing artist, and he's also Filipino, which Yay! Also is really funny like that. There are a lot of really cool Filipino artists out there, and yeah. Not only is Bruno Mars a really cool one, but one you guys may not have heard of is a really cool guy named James Reid.
Okay, so let's turn back a little bit. So do you remember when we were obsessed with the Disney Channel? There are some real bops, right? Like we used to watch High School Musical quite a bit. We like to to the top, right? Anyways, Breaking Free, that was also a really good song. We definitely loved Hannah Montana at some point. Miley Cyrus, no shade, we love her now still, we just don't listen to her as much. Wizards of Waverly Place was a great show, and so we were introduced to Selena Gomez's music there. Camp Rock, how could you forget Camp Rock?
Pretty iconic.
Demi Lovato, she has an amazing voice. Her range, her ability to just sing up there is just with so much power is just so great.
Impressive.
And of course, the Jonas Brothers.
Connect 3.
Yes, the Jonas Brothers.
And honestly, Phineas and Ferb had some pretty fire songs too. I know Simply LJ is more than familiar with them, especially since she talked about Ain't Got Rhythm. But I also really loved the Aglet song. It taught me what an aglet was, guys.
Wait, for our listeners, can you please explain what an aglet is?
Well, the aglet is that plastic tip part on your shoelace that nobody really knows, and it's called an aglet.
Aglet. Aglet. Don't forget it. Oh, sorry, I messed it up. My bad. Okay, so a lot of Disney Channel stuff, but the main, I guess, artist that I continued to listen to because of Disney Channel was the Jonas Brothers. And just recently, well, it's not recent anymore, it was actually last year, since that was the last safe time we were able to go on to a concert. We saw the Jonas Brothers live in Toronto, which was really great. And at the concert, we were definitely able to see how they have grown both vocally and musically. Oh my goodness.
And also as performers as well.
Definitely, yeah. Like I was just thinking of like the earlier material. Like they really sang with like that punk, like
Yeah.
strained. Not to say that it was terrible, but it was definitely a more strained sound,
Mm-hmm.
right? But nowadays, especially if you listen to Joe and his work with DNCE, so like Cake by the Ocean, like it's just he's so much more stable, and so is Nick with his solo work as well. Like they just sing with a lot more power and definitely a lot more confidence, and you can hear that in their actual recordings and when they perform on stage, which is really awesome.
Kevin's stuff is awesome too.
Right. And so Jonas Brothers was the beginning of my obsession with boy bands. And you could probably tell where this conversation is going. So, earlier at the beginning of this podcast, I talked about a group that I was obsessed with. Not obsessed, but I really admire. And it is not the Jonas Brothers, but it is, in fact, the most popular, biggest, I'm sorry if you would disagree with me, but definitely the biggest presence on Twitter. Andrea,
Hmm.
any idea who I'm talking about?
Would they happen to be known as BTS?
Indeed, BTS, also known as Bulletproof Boy Scouts, Beyond the Scene, and in Korean, Bangtansonyondan. I apologize if there are any Korean speakers out there. I tried to pronounce their name as best as I can. Anyways, BTS. Why are we talking about BTS? Well, they have been just a huge force in the pop music industry. Like, they have definitely changed the game. Like, they started off as a not a small group. I mean, they have 7 members, by the way, in case you're wondering. You can just easily Google them up and you'll find everything you need. But BTS came from a smaller label in South Korea. And if you're not familiar with the K-pop industry, well, usually it's dominated by the top 3 labels, and artists from those labels are typically the ones that become more successful.
Um, I feel like a really great example of this is a super popular, very talented girl group who is really big nowadays. You might know them. They're called Blackpink. They are with YG Entertainment, which is considered one of the big 3 labels in South Korea. And as a result of being with this label, they experienced a lot more than most typical girl groups that may start off with different agencies. So they just overall have a higher quality of like training and education and just experience with going to different music shows and venues and things like that, mainly because their label has that reach and has that influence in the industry. And like they are a group of 4 extremely talented girls. However, they did momentarily not create any music for a really long time, for about a year and a bit, I would say. But despite that, they're still very popular today. And I would say, I feel like that has a lot to do with, again, like the influence that the label has and getting them connections to other things outside of music, like just like advertisements, different TV shows, and things like that. But, you know, for groups outside of this big 3 label, it can be really hard to get those opportunities. And
Right.
every single performance is a struggle to remain relevant in the industry.
It's such a cutthroat industry as well. Like, one wrong move, like, the artists themselves aren't looked up to for just their music, but also for like their character, their like what they do outside of creating music, which is crazy. But anyways, let's get back on topic. So going back to BTS, they came from a smaller label, right? And they were able to overcome those barriers of being from a smaller label to actually reaching international and worldwide superstardom, fame, right? And that was not mainly, but a lot of it comes from the fact that they were one of the first groups to really foster a connection with their fans, not only through performances, but they really used social media to connect with their fans, to keep them updated on what they're doing, like, you know, what just small things like, oh, today I'm going to the park, or they would keep them updated on latest releases. Oh, we're getting ready to record a new song for a new album and that sort of thing. And it wasn't always like serious stuff that they would post about. They would just be their regular selves. They were just being very honest and authentic. And I feel like fans really connected to that, and they felt how true they were. And so they found that the music also spoke to them as well. Like BTS's music was really all about self-love and positivity and loving yourself. In fact, they even have like a whole
Series of
series
albums.
called the Love Yourself series, and actually a world tour as well, which is great. So they're always sharing that positive message. And on top of that, they actually compose, produce, and they choreograph, like they create the dances for their songs as well, which is amazing.
And speaking of K-pop groups who create their own music and compose and do a lot of self-made things, there are a handful of other groups that are known for also making their own music outside of BTS. A bunch of really well-known ones would be 17, Stray Kids, Mamamoo, Day6, and G-Idol.
And old K-pop was definitely influenced by traditional Korean music such as trot. However, K-pop now draws from a variety of genres outside of Korea like trap, reggae, reggaeton, bossa nova, R&B, hip hop, and rock even.
And, this kind of comes full circle. When we think about going all the way back to the beginning, when we think about why the Beatles were so popular, especially with young people, is that they were really unafraid to experiment with new kinds of sounds and just reaching outside of what was popular in rock in the 60s. And they went out and just experienced so many different things, so many new cultures, and that allowed their music to grow along with them. I feel like I don't want to sound like I'm reaching when I say this, but BTS definitely feels like this decade's Beatles. They not only do they have a variety of different sounding music and music that just caters to everyone, whether you like R&B, hip hop, pop, but they even have the crazy fans as well.
Mm-hmm.
They have such a vast fan base that like it doesn't only span and include people who are young, people who fall into like teenagers to like the 20s, but even people who are parents and
Yes.
people who even only got into K-pop and BTS because of their children, even
Grandparents.
exactly, even
Yeah.
grandparents. They just have so many fans, and it's because music in the end is a universal language in itself. It doesn't have to be in English or in Korean for those specific populations to
Mm-hmm.
enjoy them. Rather,
Exactly.
it just speaks to you.
It just speaks to you. The melody speaks to you. You can just like the beat of a song. It doesn't matter. If you like it, right?
Exactly.
And of course, if you are curious about digging deeper, you can always go on to Google and search up translations of lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
But as Andrea has mentioned, right, it really doesn't matter where the music comes from and what language it's from. Like the Beatles themselves were not Americans, but
Mm-hmm.
they were so popular in America because of their sound. I mean, it does help that their music was in English, but besides the point, they were foreigners themselves as well, and they managed to find their success worldwide,
Mm-hmm.
even in non English
Speaking
speaking
countries.
countries. Yeah, so it's great. Music is universal. It transcends languages. What else can you say, Ange?
I mean, I feel like it's something else. It really is something else. Like it transcends a dimension of merely just enjoying what it sounds like, but rather it feels like I don't know if this is me just being a crazy audiophile or anything, but like it really grips you. There are certain chord progressions or certain chords that when you hear them, it just makes you like, oh, like you tense up, and it's just like, it's just
Right.
amazing, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
not limited to a certain genre or a certain language or a certain artist. Like just when you hear that, it's yeah, I don't know.
When you hear that like change, right, especially with for those music listeners out there, especially when there's modulation in the
Ooh
song,
yeah.
if the song is just in that C major and all of a sudden they just modulate, even if it just goes up to a C sharp major, like if it just goes up to something really close or different, like when the key
The
changes,
mood.
the mood automatically
Ooh.
changes and it gets really exciting. Or it could just get, they could slow it down as well, not just
Mm-hmm.
with keys, but they could also change the tempo in
Mm-hmm.
that thing. So truly, music is universal. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter your experience with music. You don't have to be a musician, a piano teacher, recording artist, whatever, to enjoy it. You just have to like chill out and listen to it, right? Just relax,
Exactly.
enjoy
Yeah.
it. And that is my goal here with the Melody Project, with this podcast. I want my listeners to just gain a broader appreciation for music, no matter where you're from, no matter your experience with music at all. Just be open to listen to different things. I mean, that's how pop culture pop culture was formed, right? Like whatever becomes popular is because someone out there listened to it, liked it, and shared it with all their friends, right? So all I can say is, venture out there, just listen to it. If a friend recommends a song, just listen to it. It won't hurt, right?
So, where does this leave us? Well, our perception continues to evolve and change each and every day, just as music comes out every day. And, well, when you think about it, pop music is just popular music, and it really means that the sky is the limit with pop. And that's simply music.
And that's simply LJ. And a very big thank you to my guest, Andrea Sargento. Woo!
Well, it was awesome being on here today. Everyone who's listening, please keep an eye out for Weeby Acapella. We plan on releasing music in the near future, so yeah, keep an eye out for that.
Awesome. I don't know about you guys, but I will definitely be checking them out as well. And thanks for tuning in to the first episode of the Melody Project. Take care. See ya. Bye.
지금 나 위한 행복 바로 나 위한 행동 나 위한 태도가 나 위한 행복 Show you what I got 두렵진 않아 그건 내 존재니까